The 49ers Super Bowl window might finally be coming to a close. We truly are watching the end of an era in San Francisco. Because as things currently stand, the 49ers are dead last in their division, and with one more win from either the Seattle Seahawks or the LA Rams, the Niners will be mathematically eliminated from making the playoffs. And you might be wondering how a team went from going to the Super Bowl in February to being dead last in the NFC West come December. Well, the real answer is the season resets, dumbass. Nah, but the truth is, it's injuries. It all came down to injuries for the 49ers. In fact, it was so bad all year long that the injuries didn't begin in August around preseason. No, it really started for them back in February because during the Super Bowl, Dre Greenlaw tore his ACL by simply walking onto the field. That's all he did, was walk onto the field, and apparently the turf monster got him, tore his ACL, and he was out for the first half of the 2024-05 season. And things don't end there for the 49ers because in the preseason, Christian McCaffrey gets diagnosed with Achilles tendonitis, and apparently it wasn't supposed to be serious, at least according to Kyle Shanahan. But guess what? Christian McCaffrey ends up missing a majority of this season due to his Achilles tendonitis. He comes back, plays for 4 games, and the Niners look good in his first game. He really dominates against a solid Tampa Bay team, and while Christian McCaffrey did look great in his return, he would only last 3 more games after that before going out with an injury again, and he's back on the IR, where he started his season. And he isn't even the only key offensive player that the 49ers have had out all year, because you also got to take into consideration Brandon Ayuk. And Brandon Ayuk was the main storyline for the 49ers all offseason, because for the entirety of it, he was trying to fight with the team for a contract. There were rumors that he was going to be traded, possibly to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Didn't end up happening. The team ended up folding and gave Brandon Ayuk a 4-year deal worth $120 million that would go through 2028. And if I'm being honest, Brandon Ayuk did deserve this contract. However, the way he went about it in the offseason really threw off the team's chemistry, and I don't know if the team fully accepted him by the time he came back. And I say all that to say that Ayuk did play solid, but then came week 7, and in a game against the Kansas City Chiefs, Ayuk would go out and tear his ACL, MCL, and meniscus, meaning that he would be done for the rest of this season, and you wouldn't look to see him back until 2025. Same as McCaffrey, he's been battling injuries all year. And those are 2 key offensive weapons that the 49ers have had to play most of this season without. And the storyline of Brock Purdy needing a super team to win really comes back to life here because the 49ers have struggled without their stars. And it's not like the replacements are bad either. Jawan Jennings has been great. Both of the running backs for the 49ers that have replaced Christian McCaffrey for a majority of the season haven't been bad either. However, they aren't to the levels of McCaffrey and Ayuk. They're basically irreplaceable, which is probably why the 49ers went out and gave them the contracts that they did. They've been handing out contracts left and right. Trent Williams got paid, Nick Bosa's gotten paid, Deebo Samuel's gotten paid, George Kittle has gotten a bag. But that's all going to go away soon for the 49ers. And I'll talk more about that in a second. But for right now, I just wanted to remind you guys to slow down, like the video, and subscribe to the channel. Every subscription is greatly appreciated, goes a long way. We're on the road to 10K. Thank you guys for the 5,000 subscribers, means a lot. I'll do anything to hit 10K. Alright, now let's get back to talking about the 49ers. You see, the thing about the Niners here is that the only reason they've been able to pay all of their stars and retain most of their core players is because Brock Purdy is getting paid less than $1 million a year. He's still on his rookie contract, and apparently when you get drafted with the last overall pick in the NFL draft, you're not going to get paid any money. And so Brock Purdy has been playing for pennies and dimes throughout his entire career. Once Brock Purdy's first real contract hits, the rest of the team is going to feel it. And I'm not too sure that Brock Purdy is going to take a team-friendly deal because that's what he's been doing for the last 3 years, taking a team-friendly deal. So once that extension kicks in, who knows what kind of players the 49ers are going to have to either trade or cut come 2025, 2026. All I know is that Super Bowl window is shrinking smaller and smaller. Hell, they've had 5 years, which is more than any team could have asked for because since 2019, the team went out and made 4 NFC Conference Championships and made 2 Super Bowls. That is a lot to ask for, especially from an NFL team, because these guys are getting injured constantly or they're falling off a cliff talent-wise, and they're very hard to replace. So the fact that Kyle Shanahan was able to push this core to its limits is very impressive. However, if the 49ers are going to want to continue to have success, they're going to need a new core because these guys are getting up there in age. A majority of them are either in their 30s or late 30s, and we don't know how much longer they're going to be playing at this high of a level. And I haven't even touched on the defensive side of things, because the defense is also missing a shit ton of players. First off, we got Drake Jackson, defensive end. He's been out since August. Then there's Ambry Thomas, cornerback, IR. Javon Hargrave, IR. Curtis Robinson, IR. And there are plenty more players where that comes from. Hell, Darrell Luter has been on the IR since November. Tatum Bethune, IR. Kevin Givens, IR. George Odom, IR. D. Winters is questionable right now. He's a linebacker who was there to fill in for Drake Greenlaw after Drake Greenlaw went down with an injury in his return game. So it's not like the 49ers don't have a talented roster. In fact, they have one of the best rosters in the NFL. But when you have to deal with constant injury after injury after injury, it is hard to maintain winning culture. I don't know how the Detroit Lions have done it, because the Detroit Lions have seen just about as many injuries as the Niners have, and yet they've gone out and won 12 games. I think it's very impressive that the 49ers have won 6 games this year. I didn't expect them to be around 500 if you had told me beforehand that they were going to have this many players out. And I also think that what's held back the 49ers isn't just injuries, but that the guys that they do have playing have been struggling. Take a guy like Brock Purdy, for example, who's played 13 games this season. Statistically, his numbers have been down from just a year ago, and you could contribute some of that to the injuries the 49ers have seen. However, just using the eye test, it's clear that Brock Purdy isn't as good as he was last year, and progression isn't linear. I know guys are going to have bad years and some great years, but this is one of those not so good years for Brock Purdy. He's gone out and he's had a 65% completion percentage, the lowest of his career. Only thrown for a little over 3,000 passing yards, and he's only got like 3 more games left in the season. Who knows if he's going to touch 4,000 passing yards this year. He's got 15 touchdowns, which isn't even half of what he did last year, and he's thrown for 9 interceptions already. Just a year ago, he threw for 11 interceptions in 16 games. In 13 games, Brock Purdy's thrown for 9. So we could see that interception number rise, especially with the 49ers getting desperate as the year goes on. The truth is that this year is a complete wash for the 49ers. They just have to hit the reset button and head into next year with the hopes of making the playoffs and finally winning their first Super Bowl since the 90s. But the only way they're going to get that done is off of the back of Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan is going to need to pull some sorcery off, make sure that, the medical staff keeps these guys healthy, and that he's able to maneuver the roster in ways that get Brock Purdy paid, but also retain as many key players as possible. I think this is all going to fall on the hands of Kyle Shanahan. And if Kyle Shanahan isn't able to get things done with the 49ers, who knows if he's out as their head coach, because everywhere he goes, he gets really close to success before failing. He can never reach the top of the mountain. You saw that with the Atlanta Falcons and what he did working with them in that Super Bowl against Tom Brady, a classic Super Bowl. But anyway, I think that's all for this video. I think I've summed up everything I wanted to talk about, which is mostly just 49ers injuries all year long. But anyway, I'll catch y'all later. Much love. Deuces.